What is up, Cortland? Welcome back to the Division 3 podcast. I'm your host, Zach Jackson, and we are back in the studio today. This episode is being recorded right after the Cortaca Jug. For those who don't know what the Cortaca Jug is, it's a Division 3 football game between SUNY Cortland and their rivals, Ithaca College. It is a huge event for both schools. Last year it was held at Yankee Stadium. A few years it was held at MetLife. It's probably the biggest Division III football game every year. Cortland just won it 38-28, so I'm sure the town of Cortland is about to go crazy. Well done, Red Dragons. While I had to touch on that, it's not what I plan on talking about today. When I have guests on this podcast, I always like to ask them about their stories, but this week it's just me, so I figured I'd share my journey with sports. Before I start, I'd like to say that I have a bit of a cold, so my voice might be a bit raspy this episode. Just bear with me. With that being said, let's jump right into it. I'm from Long Island, New York, Suffolk County to be exact. My story starts when I was 5 years old. I had started training in martial arts, which had a huge impact on my life. I trained mostly in karate and jiu-jitsu, earning a black belt when I was about 14, I think. I trained consistently for like 13 years until COVID hit, and then I went away for college, so I had to stop. Martial arts has been a huge part of my life, even now that I don't train anymore. I plan on getting back into it when I graduate, and I'd love to work in the UFC or with a boxing promotion in the future. I'm very passionate about it. I watch almost every major event in combat sports that happens. I never really liked to compete when I was younger, but I think that's something I'd be more interested in now. I used to be really shy and didn't really like the spotlight, but I've kind of gotten over that fear. Last year, I actually almost competed in a boxing match for charity, but I was unable to do so because I would have had to train in Philly, and I didn't have the time for that while I was in school. Throughout elementary and middle school, I played a bunch of different sports, but I didn't really stick with any of them except basketball. I played soccer, baseball, tennis, and I wrestled for a bit. I actually did enjoy wrestling to a degree, but I already did the other martial arts, and I didn't really love wrestling, and it conflicted with basketball season. I ultimately chose basketball over it. But basketball is a sport I fell in love with. I started playing around third grade. Unfortunately for me, I was one of those kids who hit a growth spurt really early. So I grew up playing center. But then I only turned out to be 6'2" when I stopped growing. I did still play in high school, though. I had to drop down to the 3 or the 4, which was pretty hard for me to do. It took a lot of training in 9th and 10th grade. I didn't make my school basketball team until 10th grade, actually, mostly due to unfortunate circumstances. In my middle school, 6th graders weren't allowed to play sports. Then in 7th grade, I broke my pinky toe right before tryouts, and I couldn't get cleared to try out. 8th grade, the reason why I got cut from tryouts was actually pretty funny, but I don't think I could tell that story on this podcast. But it didn't have anything to do with my basketball abilities, and I'll leave it at that. 9th grade, I just hadn't fully transitioned into playing the 3 or 4, and the team was loaded with centers that were all way bigger than me and better than me. But 10th grade is when I finally got my chance to play on a school team. That whole time I was playing in out-of-school leagues. But 10th grade is also when I really started to develop as a player. That year I had JV practice 6 days a week. I played multiple out-of-school leagues. And on Sundays I would do basketball workouts at a local Lutheran school that had a really good basketball program. It was called Our Savior. Shout out to Coach Kelly, Coach George, and Coach Moo. They were great coaches and great people. That school actually produced an NBA player. His name's Check Diallo. I never met him, but I just thought it was really cool that I trained in the same place as an NBA player for a while. At the end of my 10th grade season, I sustained an unknown knee injury that would turn out to be the start of knee problems for many years after that. It was a minor injury that I decided not to get checked out because I wanted to play the rest of the season. And that turned out to be a poor decision on my part because it's kind of been one of those things that nagged at me ever since then. I recently suffered a more major knee injury, but I'll get into that a bit later. I continued to play basketball until COVID hit and shut everything down. They even shut down the outdoor courts at first. And when things reopened, I was already in college where I still play recreationally in intramural leagues and at open runs in the park when it's nice out. But I don't play competitively anymore. I'm not on our club team. I'm not on our Division III team. At my first college, which was Farmingdale State University, I didn't really have much of an opportunity to play sports because we were still recovering from the pandemic. But I did join their intramural basketball program when that opened. I think it opened the second year that I was there. So I played in that for a while. I also briefly worked as the school mascot, Rambo the Ram. I wasn't really good at it, and being a mascot sucks. That costume gets so hot, and you don't really get a break. You just have to walk around in it. It's hard to see in it. It's not really a fun job. Well, I guess it's fun to interact with the fans and things like that. But being inside of that costume for any length of time is incredibly uncomfortable. You come out just drenched and dehydrated. So that didn't last very long. And then I transferred to SUNY Cortland, where I joined the Ultimate Frisbee Club team. I know I touched on how I ended up on the team when I interviewed Carly a few episodes ago, but I'll get into more detail about it. So, how I ended up on the team was my friend Anthony from back home. He transferred to Cortland the year before I did, and he joined the team. And when he found out that I was going to be transferring the year after him, he tried everything to convince me to join it. And I resisted it for a very long time. But every time we saw each other, he'd be like, hey, you should join the team. You should join the team. And I didn't really want to. At that time, I planned on joining the club basketball team or club jiu-jitsu team or both. But then I got to Cortland, and I went to the club fair and with my roommate. And my roommate ended up signing up for Frisbee. So then my friend Anthony and my old roommate, they both kind of got on me and pressured me into agreeing to go to the interest meeting. And and at that time, I still really wanted to play club basketball and club jiu-jitsu. But what ended up happening was my basketball, I eventually decided not to try out for that team. One, I didn't make it. I didn't think that I'd have a really high chance of making it since I'm not very tall, or at least not in basketball terms. And I was really rusty from not playing competitively for years. And two, basketball has kind of just become something that I'd rather be, just do for fun now. I would say that, playing super competitively for so long, while I loved it, it did kind of make it feel like a job at some point. So I ended up not trying out for club basketball. And I did want to do club jiu-jitsu, but they never emailed me back. I actually plan on doing it this semester too, but I couldn't find time in my schedule. But yeah, something happened with the emails. I think I gave them the wrong email, never ended up at their interest meeting. So I only had the Ultimate Frisbee interest meeting, and I really like the guys and joined the team, and I've been on that team for all of last year and this whole semester. Our season just ended last week with the Saratoga tournament, and yeah, we're getting ready for the fall, and we're getting ready for the spring semester next semester. Unfortunately, I might not be 100% ready to start the spring semester. On Monday night this week, I injured my knee pretty badly in an intramural basketball game, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. I went up to block a shot on a fast break, and I guess I just jumped wrong because I felt my knee pop on the way up. It was a non-contact injury. It hurt really bad. That might be the worst pain I've ever been in my life. And yeah, the next day, my friends carried me off the court, and the next day I went to the ER to get checked out. I've been walking on crutches this whole week, so not a fun week for me. But I went to the orthopedic a few days ago. He said he thinks that I had temporarily dislocated my knee when I jumped. There's a medical term for that, but I'm not a doctor. He said that caused damage to my patellar tendon, however. But it's not torn, so I don't need surgery. I don't really have a timetable for when I'm going to be fully healed. But I hope that with physical therapy, I'll be ready to play by the spring semester. I know that's not really injuries are never really a fun topic. But to end on a lighter note, I know I usually ask guests what their most embarrassing sports moments are. So I think it's only fair that I share some of mine. I actually have a couple of stories to share. The first one was when I don't even know how old I was. It was so long ago. It was a martial arts. It was a belt test. So in my martial arts school, the way that you earned your next belt was when Shihan thought you were ready. He put you in a belt test, and then they'd test your skills. Usually it would consist of you'd run through whatever skills you should know for the next belt, and they'd see if you know them or not. And there'd usually be some type of sparring. For the higher belts, there's some senseis messing with you segments, which are always pretty fun. But I think it was my brown belt test. It might have even been my junior black belt test. Also in our school, we had junior black belts for people who got to the rank of black belt, but were too young to be like full-fledged black belts. So I did take I think I took 3 black belt tests. So I had my first junior black belt test, and I had a second degree junior black belt test. Then I had my adult black belt test. But on either brown belt or junior black belt test, we're going over really basic stuff, actually, things that I should know. And he wanted to see our axe kicks, and if you don't know what an axe kick is, it requires you to swing your leg above your head and then hit down with the heel of your foot on the way down. And for some, I've practiced a million times up until that point. And for whatever reason, I swung my leg up and just lost my footing and just fell on my butt in a comedic fashion. And everyone that was watching laughed. Everyone that Shihan himself laughed. I was laughing on the floor. But yeah, that one was pretty embarrassing. And the second story, it came in one of the out-of-school basketball leagues. Actually, I have two stories from that. Uh, we had a really funny coach on that out of school basketball team. Shout out to Coach Xavier. He's a great coach, by the way. And our team was pretty stacked. We were blowing out almost every team in that league. And one game we got up big before half. And then we were messing around. We were trying we were kids. We were trying to do like 360s. We were trying to throw alley-oops to each other. None of us could dunk, by the way. But while we were doing all that, the other team started coming back without us really realizing it because we got a little too cocky. And our coach called a timeout in the middle of the third quarter and yelled at us. I will not repeat what he said. And then made us all do 20 push-ups in a timeout mid-game. But that wasn't really the most embarrassing story for me personally. But that was pretty embarrassing for everyone that was on the court for that. But also on that same team, we were in the championship game. And I think this was actually the second year. We won the championship 3 years in a row. Yeah, I think we won the championship 3 years in a row. And it was almost 4, but our championship game was canceled when I was a senior because of COVID. It was actually canceled like 20 minutes before the game. It was heartbreaking. But I think in our second championship game, there's about 20 seconds where my brain just did not function properly. And I tried to, the other team scored, and I inbounded it, and I threw it directly to someone on the other team instead of my point guard. And that would have been fine. I mean, that's always embarrassing. But, so I threw it to the wrong person. He immediately just did a layup, scored. So then I went to inbound it again, and I threw it, and another person from the other team tipped my inbound pass and stole it. To which I stole the ball back from them and then proceeded to throw the ball away a third time in a row. This all happened in like 20 seconds. It was horrendous basketball, so they scored twice off of it. Luckily for me, I went on to have a pretty good game after that, and we won the championship. So it didn't matter too much. But it was very embarrassing in the moment, especially with like my whole family there because it was a championship game. But yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for listening. I know it's probably a little tough being that I didn't have a guest this week, but I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week.